Hey friends, thank you for joining me again. Let me show you this photograph that I'm working from mostly. There's Jerry, there's his bar. I'm adding Jerry's wife and some anonymous friends. And I'm about 7 layers into this painting. It's, of course, all acrylics so far, so everything there is dry. And I just finished sort of blocking and drawing in these abstract, well, they're not very abstract, but anonymous figures. I give myself the freedom to change them as much as I want. I've got something on my canvas that is not dry. I wonder what that is. Huh, that is funny. Be that as, and that might have been pencil. The black pencil. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with the rendering of, I'm not done yet, but happy with the rendering of all these bottles. This is a neon sign here, ceiling up here, and so on so forth. Counter here. Not terribly happy with the composition. It's not hanging together adequately yet. No surprise. By the way, this is almost a rule of thumb. There's a there's an inverse relationship between drawing, realism, similitude, accuracy. There's an inverse relationship between that and good composition. Okay, good composition does not refer to how carefully, accurately is something drawn. So, of course, people who do photorealistic or realistic painting have to take all their compositional issues into account right from the beginning. I, on the other hand, the whole thing kind of grows up together. Anyway, so I'm going to ignore drawing now for a little while because I really want this composition. I'd like it to hang together a little bit better. And I do have an idea. You can almost see it now, and I nudged it in this direction a while ago. You can watch, episode, I don't know, A, B, C, or D, one of those, where I want basically a shaft of light. There is, in fact, a light fixture way up here. That's not why I'm doing this, but it's convenient that it's there. And I want basically a shaft of light, probably expanding, coming down like this. And I'm going to move in that direction simply by applying some translucent white paint to try to get the composition, again, going somewhat in that direction. Now, it's very important that what I'm doing right now is translucent because I certainly don't want to lose, a couple hours of work that it took me to render, draw in, block in all these shells. I don't want to lose all that. I don't even want to lose Jerry's face here. But I'm doing this trusting that the white stuff that I'm putting on right now, and I can put Jerry in a light colored shirt. Yeah, that will help. That will help this illusion quite a bit. In other words, let me do some plain old traditional art teaching here. Composition, right? Everybody's heard about design, composition of a painting. When you enter the realm, the department, the area of a painting where you're focused on composition, please understand that you are focusing on, and this is important, you are talking about the major light and dark areas, the major light and dark zones of a painting. That's what makes up a composition. It's not about lines. Is it about shapes? Well, yeah, but it's about light and dark shapes. It's not so much about color, usually. Only in rare exceptions is it a reference primarily or largely to color. Likewise, Jerry's wife's going to have on a red dress. That can be light in color, which is good because that will allow this the shaft of light to continue down, all the way down to here, I think. So when you're talking composition, you're talking light and dark areas. You're talking value, shapes of values. I hope that made sense to you. If you're an artist, if you're a painter, if you're a student. And now, once we're talking about values, value shapes, I have like 3 different levels of sophistication when it comes to discussing composition, okay? The least sophisticated, the simplest, if you can't handle anything else at this point, then just learn this, the law of thirds. Okay? Almost all of you have heard of the law of thirds, and you know what that means, right? Major dividing points here and here, and major horizontals here and here. This is a major horizontal here. This is a little high, but this shelf is okay. I've got a woman here and a bar here, so I think I'm okay with the law of thirds. That's the simplest rule of composition. Now let me take half a step more complicated, more sophisticated than just the law of thirds. Okay, and that principle number 2, maybe, or 1B, I'm not sure, is the law of thirds with a twist. In other words, try not to slavishly follow exactly the law of thirds all the time. If you do, you will end up with boring composition, because simply following the law of thirds in and of itself will yield to predictability. Okay, so if you want to go one more step, in my opinion, one more step sophisticated than just law of thirds, then add this. Law of thirds with a twist. Law of thirds where you push some of the thirds just a little bit in a pleasant direction. But you still have to be thinking law of thirds. You're just going to push it a little bit. One classic example comes to my mind. That is Andrew Wyeth's. One of his most famous painting is called Christina's World. Just look up Andrew Wyeth or Wyeth Christina's World. In that painting, Andrew Wyeth has a horizon that is about 90% of, it's way at the top. In a sense, he's breaking the law of thirds quite radically, but because of the overall composition, it works. But you would never look at that painting of his, which is a fantastic painting, in my opinion. You would never look at it and say, oh yeah, law of thirds. You'd have to look at it and say, wow, law of thirds pushed, twisted, exaggerated, not exaggerated, but played with a little bit. Okay, so that's 1B. That's composition level 1. Composition 1A and 1B. Law of thirds. Composition law number 2 is this. The major light and dark zones in your painting, you with me? The major light and dark zones should be identifiable basically with one word. I used to say in one simple non-compound sentence, but then I realized that was actually more complicated than was necessary. So let me repeat that again. The major light and dark zones in your painting should be able to be identified, one or the other, either the light or the dark, with one word. This painting, the way it is right now, what I'm aiming for right now is shaft. Shaft of light, or beam, or angled beam. So that's 2 words, an adjective and an angled beam. Or, I'm trying to think of the word, but you can see by my hands, it's real obvious. Now, and sometimes you describe, like, somebody might say, well, no, it's more like this. If you call this dark down here, it's more like a U shape. That would be valid. I don't think the U shape is quite as strong as the single shaft. I'm going to move on because I'm basically done painting, I think, at this level. I'll do a little more. That's lesson number 2, or that's sophistication, composition level number 2. Let me give you composition, a little bit more sophisticated, is instead of breaking your painting into lights and darks, now break for level 3, break your painting, divide your painting into 3, light, medium, and dark. Okay? So now instead of light and dark, we have light, medium, and dark. And this is my friend Mikey, Mike Rooney. So I call this Mikey's rule. He doesn't go by Mikey normally, but Mikey's rule. Here it is. Light, medium, and dark. 2 of those 3 should be contiguous, connected, touching. 1 of the 3 can be higgledy-piggledy, speckledy, frickledy, all separated. But 2 of the 3 must be touching. Okay? If that's the case, then I'm almost doing it if I call all this midtone, right down here, in this kind of a narrow bridge, which is legal. All of this is midtone, all this is midtone, then it's all connected. Here's dark, and here's dark, and here's light. So my midtones and my lights are connected, my darks are separated. But then, you know, then I'm left with, okay, I've got a thin, if that's the case. Now, and I do find Mikey's rule surprisingly helpful. And it's the kind of stuff, by the way, that it's really best to work out in a preliminary sketch ahead of time. But here I am, I'm trying to work it out. On the fly. But I think the composition here is going to work. Obviously I've covered up some of my drawing, but I can still make it out through there. I can't make out her face. I lost her face completely, but no big loss. That was not drawn in very carefully anyway. That's sophistication level number 3. And then number 4, I give this advisedly, is Edgar Payne. So definitely can blame this on Edgar Payne, famous father of the California School of Plein Air Painting, middle of the 20th century, American. He says, and he's a pretty good painter, so you disregard what he says with extreme caution. He may not be right, but probably neither you nor I are good enough to point out his wrongness. Does that make sense? He might not be right, but I don't know. Just pay attention to what he says very carefully, because dang, he was a good painter. Edgar Payne, just look him up, Edgar Payne. Okay, here's what he said. Edgar Payne says, all the good compositions in the world can be reduced to these 12. And I'm not going to give you the 12, although they're anachronisms. They're what do you call it? Letters. Spell out the word. NFL teams are 2XL, 2 extra large. NFL teams are 2XL. I've got a whole handout on that subject, and it's been posted on my Facebook and YouTube a couple times. Go there, YouTube community, and see if I've uploaded it there. Anyway, that's level number 4. So that gives me 4 rules to think about when I'm going to go through them again. Law of the thirds. Yeah, close enough. 1B, the law of the thirds tweet, which is definitely what I've done here. I mean, is this a major vertical? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But close enough there. High. And this low. Yeah, that feels like a box here, and we're close to thirds. Okay, that's law A, B, and B. Law number 2, major light and dark areas described with one word. And that's where I think this composition succeeds. Shaft of light down the middle at an angle. Law number 3, or principle number 3, Mikey's rule. 3 levels, light, medium, and dark. Light, medium, and dark. 2 of the 3 have to be connected, and in my case, it's the darks that are separated. And then law number 4, this describes an Edgar Payne angle, shaft of light, which is represented in my case by the letter N because of that angle in the capital letter N. Okay, so NFL teams, N, the very first of Edgar Payne's compositional elements. There you go. So I'm going to let this dry for just a few minutes and come back I'm not sure what I'm doing next. I might just finish with light details, and then I'm ready to go to oil. But I'm going to think about that for a minute. Okay. Hope that's helpful. Thanks for watching. Leave comments. If you left some chats, I'll try to, and I didn't see them, I will try to answer any questions you left in the chat room in my comments. Thanks again.